Let's get to the news that everybody is talking about, because it was the bombshell that with the referrals for the criminal investigation of the former CIA Director John Brennan and FBI Director James Comey. So if you missed it, newly declassified CIA review alleges that senior officials, including Brennan, Comey, and Clapper, pushed the discredited Steele dossier, despite all the warnings from Russia analysts, to frame President Trump during his first term. But Matt, here's the question. Is this actually long overdue accountability, or is it actually a perfectly timed distraction from Trump's DOJ and the Epstein mess that we were all talking about yesterday?
How about both, Jill? How about both? Why not? Why can't both be true? We all know this is a long overdue point of justice, really, that the American people have been pining for a long time. What happened during that period to President Trump was far worse than Watergate. It's one of the largest scandals in American history, as far as I'm concerned. We can't talk about it, too much. This is something that needs to be dealt with, because we have to reform these agencies. And if no one gets punished, right, then it will continue. The corruption will continue until the beatings improve. And we haven't seen the beatings yet. So it's good that this is happening. But nonetheless, the manner in which this stole the headlines is, of course, suspect, I think, many people. And it'd be understandable if the FBI, all these people, wanted to move on and say, hey, look, we're doing things, and here's one of the things we're doing, damn it, put this out there.
Our coworker, Steve Baker, called this red meat for MAGA, Chris. So why are we seeing this report out right now? Why do we get this as the timing?
Well, I think that's probably correct. It's helpful, but it's also extremely important. I remember when this meeting, the original January 6th meeting, 2017, was leaked to the press shortly afterwards. I was at the Daily Caller then, and my then managing editor had come to us from the National Security Reporting sector, Jeff Ingersoll, and he read the news reports that leaked of Brennan and Clapper and Comey all coming in to brief the president on the Steele dossier. And as soon as we read it, he said, this reeks to me of an intelligence operation. And back then, I just really reported on politics. I hadn't been forced into this realm of subterfuge yet. And I said, so what do you mean? And he explained, this ridiculous dossier that bears no semblance of reality unless you're completely and totally in the fever swamp of we hate Donald Trump, was briefed to the president for the sole and explicit purpose of being able to leak that briefing to the press. If you had sent around that dossier, it had been sent around previously. Even BuzzFeed, remember them, rest in peace. Even BuzzFeed had declined initially to publish this. The New York Times had passed on it. Washington Post had passed on it. I think BuzzFeed actually ended up breaking it. Mm-hmm. This wasn't able to get any kind of actual traction because nothing official had happened with it. It was just something that reporters read and said, well, that's salacious. I get lots of crazy tips all the time. Where's the meat here? Where's the there? Where's the evidence of any of this that's actually being presented? So they briefed the president on it, the incoming president, the president-elect. And then it was official. And then they were able to leak it. Yep. And then they were able to trigger resignations. And then they were able to begin that first-term assault that was so vicious. And you're right, Matt. This reminds me of Watergate. The last person in office who threatened to tear apart the American intelligence agencies was Richard Nixon. Before him was John F. Kennedy. So there's actually a huge amount of similarities to Watergate. And this is something that, Epstein aside, another intel op potentially, is extremely important to actually get into the bottom of. And imagine how white-pilling it would be if there were actually consequences for any one of these treasonous scumbags.
Yeah, and the striking thing about this is not one of those, conservative talking points at this point. I mean, it was clear. No. It was clear enough then what was going on, but at this point, this is just reality. This is real. There's no debating what happened here. Senior members of the United States government conspired together to put fake news, right, on air and dirty the reputation of the contender for president, the man who was coming in to be president, and tarnished his reputation. But it was far more than that, right? It's that they were spying on him. They were acting as if he was a security threat, and they wanted that Russian narrative out there. I mean, and this is another thing. No, everyone forgets this. I mean, Obama and Hillary were saying this stuff. I mean, she was saying stuff about his, relation to Russia, and we have to be. I mean, this was an op from the very beginning. So now we have this going on. We have, some supposed punishment. I guess my question is, I mean, what is this investigation leading to? What are they going to get these guys on? And that's where I'm a little concerned that at the end of the day, this is going to be a wrist slap. But we should take Kash seriously. Obviously, he knows the history of this. They know enough to go in there and get these guys. But partly why I didn't like this drop was because it's not clear to me what exactly they're going to charge them with. I mean, what are they going to do at the end of the day? Do we know that? I don't think anyone knows that yet.
They've been pretty tight-lipped about it.
Yeah.
And so far, what we know is just from the report that was given to the FBI. And that report included that the CIA analysts had said, none of this makes sense. This isn't verified. This is not worthy of a report that's going to go up. It should not be included in the briefing. And then that Brennan had said, I want this included. Largely because, like so many completely stupid Trump theories, it fit into a comic book caricature that he had already formed in his head about who Donald Trump was and what he was capable of and what kind of man he was. And it wasn't actually based on proper intelligence sourcing, which is what his analysts and a lot of people at the CIA had said at the time. So then he personally emailed his deputy and said, this needs to be included. And then a few years later, he went before Congress and said, I recommended against it. The CIA recommended against it. Mm-hmm. Now, the CIA did recommend against it, but he was in charge, and he overruled them.
Yeah.
And he said, we need to include this. This is essential. And then they worked together to leak this sort of stuff to the press and to try and take that administration. So for him, at least you've got perjury. Mm-hmm. The conspiracy between them, I don't know. What do you do when somebody does something extremely corrupt, but you can't actually nail them? I guess you bring a RICO charge? It's going to be hard. It's still a long way out to see if there's any actual serious repercussions. But right now, at least, they'll get a Wikipedia entry.
Let's go ahead and bring in current FBI director into this. We have soundbite number one. Kash, he was out there talking about this, hinting potentially at this with Comey about a month ago. Take a look.
I can't get ahead of everybody.
All right. What did you make of your predecessor's walk on the beach with the shells 8647?
The FBI is bigger than any leader it's ever had or ever will have. And James Comey is a private citizen, and he can walk around the beach and talk about seashells and Crayola crayons for all I care about, and talk about how we're the conspiracy theorists. But I just remind the American people of one thing. When that man was the leader of the FBI, he perpetrated the largest criminal conspiracy, packaged political information from overseas, took it to a federal FISA court, and illegally surveilled a political opponent. So I won't be lectured on how to run this FBI from that man.
So, Matt, with what we know now, what do you make of that and what Kash had to say there?
Well, I mean, I think here is an example where I'd be shocked if he didn't do what he said he was going to do. I mean, this is a central part of his mission and the pick. The reason they picked him is because he's someone who's knowledgeable about this stuff, presumably, and is going to go after them. So, I think he's living up to his word here. And again, my problem, though, is the manner in which this was put out. The timing of it is a little suspect, and we'll have to see what happens. But I mean, you have to be clear. I mean, for all the complaints right now by the FBI, by some on the right, this is what you wanted them to do, right? This is what you want Kash Patel in there to do, and it does look like they're doing it. But one thing to keep in mind about this is that all government officials are also playing a game with media, and that's Chris is telling the true story of what happened in the past. I mean, they had the meeting with the president in order to leak the thing, in order to make sure that all the media outlets would pick up that dossier and be all over the place in the media. And this all circulates around playing games with the media. So that's a two-edged sword. On the one hand, I would appreciate it if they didn't play games with the media this time and they just went after people and they came out with pronouncements when they had real, progress in investigations. Here, great. They're playing the media. They're giving us the red meat we want, as Baker said. Keep going. Let's see how far you can go with it. That's great.
So, Chris, this is the accountability that we're looking for, right? Like, this is what everybody has been asking for. But, the timing, it's like, oh, gosh, this one, it just doesn't feel right.
I know we still want to talk about Epstein, and I get it, but we're not going to get the answers on that from Donald Trump, which means we're not going to get the answers on that. So we have to kind of, I don't know. I've moved on emotionally because it's too painful. It's too irritating. It's too annoying. But the difference between Kash and Pam Bondi is that Kash Patel here is speaking from actual experience and knowledge. I mean, the only reason why that otherwise not super impressive Congressman Devin Nunes was so effective was because Kash Patel was on his staff. He was the person who really seriously pushed and exposed and went after, like a pit bull, every aspect of Russiagate and was able to help unwind it with the help of some very good investigative reporters. This was a difficult thing to do. As Chuck Schumer told us, if you go after the American intelligence agencies, they've got 1,001 ways to get back at you and destroy you. When I was digging into aspects of this myself, I was explicitly told by people who are in the know, not as a threat, as a warning, that these people will come after you. They will make your life a living hell. And he went at them. And that was when he didn't have the privileged position of director of the FBI. So it still remains to be seen. You're right. We're not talking about some of the things that I would certainly like to be talking about, but we could do every episode for the rest of our lives on the Epstein tapes, and I don't think that's going to change their opinions on the matter. So let's look at this win, I suppose.
Yeah,
if it ends up being a win.
Right. We should say, there's nothing wrong also with changing. If you're in their position and you decided you're not going to talk about Epstein and you're moving on, then move on with the next thing that you're actually going to do. That's just good media practice, hygiene. So they're going to say, look, we were launching a criminal probe into these guys, into the sort of the original sin of the Trump era that the deep state committed against him. We're going after the people that you justifiably hate. And, look at us. And that's great. And I applaud it. Because ultimately what is needed is restored trust in these central institutions that are at the basis of enforcing the rule of law in America. And that's the Department of Justice, that's the FBI, that's this CIA as well, and the other agencies. This goes to the heart of why people think their government is inherently corrupt and has crossed the line a long time ago. And so that's why the Epstein thing is still going to sting. It's still going to smart. It's not going to go away. It was deeply, intertwined with the American cultural experience of the last, 10 years. So, okay, fine. Maybe we can survive that if there is accountability in these other cases and they methodically start going after bad actors in the past. Because the one thing
I need some entertainment.
That's right. The one thing
I agree.
The one thing that's not going to cut it. We won't restore the rule of law in America unless some of this is done. Like, moving on is just not good enough for the base and a lot of people throughout the country. So, good stuff. There's a lot more heads we want to see roll, but you're right. At the end of the day, for me, it is like, show me the money, right? How are we going to get these guys? But we have to be honest and say, if you wanted one person to do this job, Kash Patel would be at the top of that list. So
yeah, but it's one of those things where this is the time to make all of the changes. I think this is what the American people are feeling. It's what the three of us want to see. We want to see the trust, the accountability, the transparency that we've all been promised. And I think that's it's now or never. Everybody feels that for the Republic. But like you said, we could keep talking about this one forever.